What happened? Why'd you do this? Where'd you get your gear or anything?
Salvatore, do you have anything to say to the mother and her children who say they were terrified after this happened?
Good afternoon. So that suspect that you all just saw, Salvatore Alfieri, is a suspect that was involved in a case on Friday evening. The information that we developed on Friday evening was that Alfieri actually went to a home in West Bexar County wearing a tactical vest with a ski mask type hood and identified himself to the resident there as a police officer. He actually identified himself as SAPD. Knew enough about the male resident of the house who was not home at the time to convince the young lady that answered the door to let him in. He claimed to be an officer that needed to do some sort of probation check and indicated that he needed to do a search for contraband in the house. They let him in, and it was a young lady that was there along with a young teenage boy that let him in. As soon as he got in, they saw that he was armed with a handgun in a holster. He took both of their cell phones away, and I think the conversation became a little bit more threatening once he was in. He did search the residence, and he did leave with a large amount of cash and some other items from inside the home. When he left, the young lady called us immediately, and we were able to get in. We were able to get him identified, thankfully, and that evening, as I believe we had a good identity on him. Saturday during the day, most of the day, we were actually out physically looking for him at some locations that we knew that were in association with him. We were not able to find him, and so late last night we made the decision to go ahead and put the information out in the fears that if we allowed this to continue much longer, he may be emboldened enough to try to do it again. And on this one, on the next one, we felt that maybe we weren't going to be as lucky, and he may harm somebody on the next one, on the next go around, or a homeowner may shoot him, realizing that he's not a real police officer. At any rate, today we developed information late this morning that he was at an intersection on Roosevelt Avenue, possibly looked to be waiting for something, and SAPD actually got to the location before we did. They were able to perform a traffic stop on a ride share that he had just gotten into and was found to be a passenger. So he was found to be in possession of some evidence in association with the case, but along with a large sum of cash that he also had with him. So the case is ongoing. We're still going to be working on the case throughout the day and the next couple of days. But for now, we're lucky to have him in custody to where he can't harm anybody else. El viernes por la noche, este sospechoso fue involucrado en un incidente donde él fue a una casa en el oeste del condado, donde él hizo el papel de como que era oficial de la ley. Él tenía puesto un chaleco que decía policía, tenía una máscara para esconderse la cara. Él se identificó como oficial de la ley de la ciudad. La mujer que estaba dentro de la casa con un joven dejaron que el sospechoso entrara, se supone a hacer un reviso. Ellos pensaban que era un oficial que estaba allí por revisar la casa por evidencia de contrabando. Ya cuando entró a la casa, les quitó los teléfonos celulares a las dos personas que estaban adentro de la casa, y él se llevó dinero en efectivo, pero también otros artículos de adentro de la casa. Él estaba armado con una pistola en el tiempo del incidente. Huyó de la escena, pero nosotros tuvimos éxito en identificarlo esa noche. Ayer tuvimos una búsqueda durante el día donde estábamos buscando al sospechoso. No teniendo éxito, nosotros dimos la información del sospechoso al público porque teníamos el pendiente que él iba a cometer otro incidente, y en esta nosotros pensábamos que había chance que él iba a herir a alguien o algo, le iba a hacer algún daño a alguien. Entonces, por eso dimos la información. Esta mañana nosotros recibimos una llamada que el sospechoso estaba por la calle Roosevelt y que parecía que estaba esperando a alguien. Los oficiales del departamento de policía llegaron allí y se encontraron con un rideshare, un Lyft que iba llevando el sospechoso. Pararon el carro, lo reconocieron y lo arrestaron. Entonces ahora está bajo nuestra custodia mientras que nosotros trabajamos este caso. Any questions?
The victim online posted that a gun was also taken during this incident. Can you confirm that and also talk about the significance of a stolen firearm as well?
Well, I mean, at this point, we're not ready to talk a whole lot about evidence in particular. We have not yet recovered a firearm from him, but we are still working other angles of the case. Absolutely, stolen firearms have become quite a hot topic. Being that there are more guns out there, unfortunately, we've still got folks that are becoming somewhat careless with those guns. Now, in this case in particular, though, this case was taken by force from the homeowner, so I don't believe they were doing anything wrong other than they let this person into their house that they honestly believed was a law enforcement officer. So yes, absolutely, guns, stolen or otherwise, continue to be a problem for us out there. Well, we don't know that there was any connection between he and the victims in the case. What concerns us, though, is he knew just enough about the male that was not there at that time to give the female a convincing story on why he was there. And so, he was able to convince her to get into the residence, so we just don't know at this point. But I mean, I can tell you, having seen the video of the incident itself, he was confident, he was comfortable with where he was at and what he was doing, and he knew exactly what he was going there for, and he knew what he was there for. So he drives directly into the driveway, gets out, and with purpose and confidence, gets out of the car and walks straight up to the door with his identity concealed and what appeared to be a tactical vest that said police on it. Walked up, gave his story. What was concerning to me was he did it with such ease and comfort that to me it almost looks like it's not his first time ever doing this. Suffice it to say, I believe it'll be his last time, though.
So did you get a chance to talk to him? Did he say, has he done this more than one time?
At this point, I haven't been made privy to what he discussed with the investigators upstairs. I'll be talking to them here shortly. It was a relatively short interview, so I don't believe that he said very much. But at this point, I can say that although I can't get too much into detail into the evidence, we've got some pretty good evidence in this case that this is the guy we were looking for.
In your initial post, you talked about the concern of having someone out like this for the rest of our community, talking about the significance of getting someone like him off our streets and the role social media played in this.
Sure. Oh, absolutely. We did feel the need to get the information out on social media quickly. Over the years, we've had some really good cases solved with the assistance of people seeing this information on social media. So we know it's a good medium to get it out sooner rather than later. With that being said, it was certainly a cause for concern that if we waited, if we sat on this information, he may commit another one. And the information that we were developing is that he was desperate for money. And so the concern obviously was that he was going to do it again, and maybe the next resident wouldn't be so fortunate and something bad would happen. La casa donde pasó el incidente fue en el oeste del condado y el carro que él había rentado esa noche estaba en el noreste del condado. Entonces se aparenta, por lo que podemos averiguar nosotros, él fue directamente de donde pasó el incidente a entregar el carro en minutos. Entonces él, más que seguro que iba manejando a alta velocidad para hacerlo desde allá hasta acá en minutos.
Y hoy intentaba cometer otra fechoría en un Lyft.
Bueno, no se sabe. Para nosotros recibimos información ayer que él ya sabía que lo estábamos buscando. Y pues él obviamente ahora está usando carros de Lyft en vez de usar los dos carros que nosotros ya sabemos que están involucrados con él, o él esté involucrado con esos carros. Entonces ya eso de usar el Lyft era manera de él de tratarse de escaparse.
¿Cuántos años tiene él?
No sé la edad que tiene él.
Just to clarify, so about the ride share, so was he getting into a Lyft or was he trying to pick someone up?
He was, let me hang on one second. Nació en 1984 o 88. Tenemos dos fechas de nacimiento por él. I'm sorry, sir. He was seen getting into the Lyft by the SAPD officers when they got there. They were able to get there a lot quicker than we were, and so I believe they were able to see him get into the lift, and then they were able to stop that lift on a traffic stop. And they did a great job. They did a great job. He lied to them about his name initially, but they were able to get onto him. Just goes to show, I mean, this guy was acting as if he was a real cop, not counting on the fact that real cops are usually much better at this sort of thing than fake cops. And so they were able to determine that he was lying pretty quickly. Well, we all received a call. I think the call may have actually come in through SAPD, that the caller knew that this was a person we were looking for and saw him there at the street corner, and that he appeared to be waiting for something.
What should people do if somebody comes up with the police? They're going to say, come in.
So good question. Good question. That was the concern, is that, you know, to us, of course, as law enforcement officers, we see this hokey getup that he's got on, and we're like, yeah, no way any of us would ever approach a house wearing that. To the untrained eye, I could see where they might think that he may be a police officer, and kind of, you know, without an abundance of caution, maybe letting him in. So there's a couple things that he did that I can tell you would be a dead giveaway for us. He showed up at the house alone. And wearing this hokey getup, but albeit nonetheless, it hid his identity, so he thought. We never show up to a situation like that alone. You know, it's typically going to be at least one or two. Even if we are in undercover status, it'll be one or two of us wearing a vest or a badge on the outside. But we will typically have a uniformed deputy or officer there with us, also with a marked unit. But we do that so that there is no case of mistaken identity. So to the public, if they were to get a knock on the door from somebody like this and there's a doubt, don't let them in. Especially if they don't have a search warrant that they can show you, don't let them in. Close the door and call 911 immediately. You can also ask to see photo ID. I felt back here to see if I actually had my photo ID on me. I had it earlier, but I don't have it on me now. But typically, undercover officers will be carrying some sort of ID. I mean, here's one of the IDs that I carry. But typically, you'll see where one of my deputies here has given me his. Typically, you'll see where you know, we'll have photo ID like this. So if you've ever got somebody that approaches you in plain clothes and is trying to pass themselves off as a law enforcement officer, ask to see this. And this is something that we will show you, and it will help in identifying them for sure.
Does this person who you arrested, does he have any priors that may be known to you all?
You know, I don't have information on priors, so I don't know for sure at this point. We can get you any criminal history that he might have later on today, though.
And what was the intersection, Roosevelt, and what was the crosswalk?
Roosevelt and South Cross. There's a motel there that he was at.
¿Qué le recomienda usted a los residentes de San Antonio para evitar que este tipo de sucesos ocurran nuevamente en las casas?
Bueno, a los residentes les puedo decir, cuando va un oficial de veras a una operación así, la mayoría del tiempo no vamos a ir solos como andaba este sospechoso, sino que vamos a andar cuando menos con 2, 3, 4, 8 oficiales, si estamos buscando a alguien o si vamos a ejecutar una orden de reviso en una casa. La mayoría del tiempo vamos a tener bacha o identificación. También tenemos tarjetas de identificación que nosotros cargamos con nosotros, pero también lo que vamos a tener es oficiales o diputados en uniforme y en un carro de patrulla que está marcado también para poder identificarnos al público.
Y las personas, las víctimas, no sé cuántas específicamente eran las que estaban dentro de la casa, se encuentran estables de salud.
Están bien, gracias a Dios, ellos están bien, no les pasó nada. Asustados, eso se puede entender por qué están asustados. Era una mujer y un joven de 14 años, se me hace algo así, que estaban solos. Afortunadamente no les pasó nada, pero muy fácil sí les podía haber pasado algo. Entonces, afortunadamente no les pasó nada en este caso.
Can you just confirm, so he's not booked, but it's still looking at the same charges of unlawful restraining, impersonating public servant, and burglary?
Yes, and then I believe interference with 911 was at least one of those calls because he took their phones from them in an effort, we believe in an effort to keep them from calling 911. So it's a whole litany of charges that stem from this incident. But I would venture to say that there's going to be additional charges. So we know that he lied to the SAPD officers about his identity initially. That'll most likely be another charge. And then he was also found to be in possession of marijuana and methamphetamine today as well as a large sum of cash.
From the time that he went to the door, convinced this victim to open up to the time he left with all of these items, approximately how long?
I think it was just a few minutes. I don't have the exact timeline, but I don't believe he was there very long at all. And then from what we were able to gather, he must have done record time because the incident happened on the west side, and the car where he turned the car back in was on the northeast side, and he was there within a matter of minutes. So I think he rented this car on an app. It's an actual app where, believe it or not, I had never heard of it. I'm an old timer, so I'm not up on everything that's out there. But my understanding is it's an app that an individual can rent their car out to people on this app. So he rented this car on this app, used it for this offense, and then brought it right back to the registered owner within a matter of minutes from the looks of it. So thankfully, we were able to capture who he was based upon the information he used to rent that car.
And what was the make and model of the car?
It was a Ford Escape. I don't remember the year, but that car is back in the custody of the registered owner, so that car is not one we're looking for anymore. The one he actually used in the incident, we know where that car is. It's accounted for. Okay?
Is it simple again? The guy's simple?
Salvatore Alfieri. Okay, thank you.